diabetes has been described as a chronic progressive disease and one-way street. It is a form of a life sentence, as it were. Once you are diagnosed to be a diabetic, you just accept it. And then you know that you will be a diabetic for lifetime. And you need to keep taking tablets and testing your blood sugars and visiting your doctor. And unfortunately, every time you visit him, maybe in 6 months to 1 year, your tablets keep increasing and diabetes seems to be going from bad to worse. This is the normal story and the accepted story. But recently, science has shown that diabetes is not a one-way street. It can be reversed. And scientifically, it's been shown that there are 3 ways of reversing diabetes. One is bariatric surgery. That has also proven that after bariatric surgery, you reduce weight and your insulin and tablet dependence for diabetes, and sometimes total diabetes gets reversed. Next is very high restricted calories. When you restrict your calories to a great extent, again, you lose a lot of weight, and then your insulin needs come down, your sugars come down, and your tablets come down. And number of people have also reduced or reversed their diabetes through marked reduction in calories. But that's a little difficult thing for all of us to do. The third and the most practical way, I feel, is to reverse diabetes using what is called a low-carb, healthy fat diet, which I feel is a very practical diet, which is easily doable, sustainable, and which has given great results. This is what I'll be talking about today. I must say that, at the time of independence, we in India had a life expectancy of around 35 years. That's about 75 years back. And now in 2021, life expectancy in India is around 70 years. We have almost doubled. But has really lifespan has increased, but what about health span? Are we living a very healthy life for almost 70 years as the average life expectancy in India is? Unfortunately, not. We are not living longer, but we are dying longer. That's the unfortunate thing. I must say here that, what's the reason here? Our bad diet. It's our bad diet that does not allow us to live, but it's our good doctor who does not allow us to die. So in the process, the life span increases, but maybe the last 10, 15 years of our life, we are all along suffering. Well, here's some figures from our country. Actually, these are quite old. I'm told now India has almost 77 to 80 million diabetics, and half of them, or more than half, because I'm told in developed countries, half the people are not aware that they have diabetes, but in India, it must be much, much more. But 4 times this number. So that means almost 300 million people, Indians, have what is called pre-diabetes. That means they are borderline, and any moment they can become diabetics. So that's the huge number. Now, if you really go to see the approximate total number of people killed in all the wars put together in the 20th century is about 100 million or so. And I can tell you definitely, all these diseases, what I'm showing on the screen, they are called metabolic diseases. These metabolic diseases, primarily driven by diabetes, has killed more people than all the wars put together in the 20th century. That is some statistics for you. Well, we all think that obesity, diabetes, blood pressure, all these are all different diseases. And we go to different specialists and get treated for them, and we don't see them as one. But actually, all of them, that is your maybe obesity, hypertension, diabetes, autoimmune diseases, infertility, cardiovascular diseases, atherosclerosis, and dementia, all have a common cause. The roots are the same. Only thing is, when it shows up, we feel they are all different, and we go to different doctors, and doctors also take it and treat them differently. Unfortunately, the root cause is the same. The root cause is carbohydrate intolerance. And this carbohydrate intolerance leads to what is called insulin resistance. And insulin resistance is the root cause for all these so-called metabolic diseases, all of them. So it is very simple. Why we are coming to this, that if you can go to the root and treat the root, all these diseases will disappear. So that, when I say, just change the diet or take this and don't take that, and I say everything, including dementia, Parkinsonism, obesity, diabetes, some of your autoimmune disease, infertility, all of them will get cured. Everybody will be surprised. How is that? There's a one silver bullet for everything, because the root cause is the same. For example, in case, let's say you have a lactose intolerance, or you have gluten intolerance, which is very, very common now. What will your doctor advise you? Avoid lactose or avoid gluten. Here, when you have carbohydrate intolerance, we all know that somehow the body cannot tolerate carbohydrates, sugars and carbohydrates. If you eat, your sugars go up in a diabetic or a pre-diabetic. In a normal person who is not carbohydrate intolerant, he can eat a lot of these sugars and carbohydrates and nothing happens. So when you become carbohydrate intolerant, the best way is to avoid, or if possible, reduce it to maximum extent possible, carbohydrates. It's as simple as that. I don't see any rocket science in this, but I don't know, somehow learned people, doctors, scientists, nutritionists, and dietitians, I don't know, they simply seem to miss the woods for the trees. So this is the problem. So basic problem for all metabolic diseases is carbohydrate intolerance. But of course, we always blame our parents and will say, well, when I also got this disease 25, 26 years back, I thought maybe both my parents had it, but naturally I get it. So I just accepted it and took some tablets, and it went downhill. But unfortunately, that's not true. Now, it has been proven that genes, of course, do play a role. I don't say no, but genes are not everything. The environment that you provide a gene is more important than the gene itself. It's like a seed. If you throw it on a concrete road, it is not going to develop into a seed and a tree. It will just wither away. But if you provided the correct soil and water and sun, and it will grow into a tree. So also, if you are genetically predisposed to diabetes, the chances that if you do not look after the environment, if you are obese, or if you take too much of carbohydrates, definitely you're providing the environment for diabetes to sprout. So that's what they say. Genes just load the gun, but it is the environment that pulls the trigger. This can be proven, as I've shown here, in identical twins. They have identical genes. If they were to have a different types of lifestyle, one maybe in a village stays back and works from morning to evening and has a healthy lifestyle. Another goes to the West, has all the Western type of fast food and fast life. He'll definitely have different set of diseases. Well, here's a quote from Darwin. He says, "To kill an error is as good as a service as, and sometimes even better than, establishing a new truth." How true this is. Now, what has happened is we have all been we are all quite obedient and regular in following whatever the advice our doctors or the authorities give us. But unfortunately, following their advice, if something is going from bad to us, that means there is something wrong in the advice. Well, this is a food pyramid. I'm sure you all know that. Well, the pyramids of Egypt are a world wonder. Wonders of the world. It's one of the wonders of the world, which is treasured and honored. Whereas this pyramid, the food pyramid, I think has done a great disservice to humanity. This food pyramid, which is even today the guideline for doctors and scientists and for all of us. We've been told from our school days in childhood that this is how we should eat. This, and we have all followed it for the last 40 years and see what has happened. The diabetes has gone through the roof. It has exploded. All metabolic disease are going from bad to worse. And then that is the time when we should ask the question, why? I think this pyramid needs to be turned on its head at the earliest. Well, here I say, why? Well, now, one of the things, of course, is the food pyramid and the advice that's given by authorities. Next is what the industry has done. Once they say, fat is very dangerous, even now you ask anybody to take more fat, have the yellow of the egg, they're saying, go, doctor, what's wrong? I'll die of heart attack. Even a common man, it's just impossible. It is so much ingrained in us that fat phobia. So once this fat was removed, this was somewhere in 1980, this food pyramid was officially first declared. Then there's no taste to food. So what manufacturers did that, they got in sugar to replace fats, and they hid sugar. Of course, sugar also has been declared, as not as a saint, but as a devil. It's not good, and it's been, universally accepted. There's no controversy about sugar being good or bad. Sugar is definitely a toxic. But what the food industry has done is that they try to hide the sugar in every possible processed food. Almost 95% of all processed foods have these sugars, and to confuse and hide them, they have got 56 names, so that you will not know where the sugar is hiding. Even doctors, when they go through these labels, will never know where the sugar is, whether it's particular processed food has sugar or not. So this is what the industry has done. Well, now coming to diabetes, as you all know that it is exploding. In 1980, when I was a student, only 5% of the adult population of our country was suffering from diabetes. And in the last 40 years, it has gone up 4 to 5 times that. Can you imagine? And with all the advice that we have been following, with all the latest tablets and treatment, the diabetes is simply going through the roof. There has to be some problem. And you know that it's a downhill course, and following all doctors' advice and medication, still people end up losing their vision, losing their kidney failure, heart diseases, amputation, and the rest. And then we as doctors, as you know, in Narayana Nethralaya at Rajajinagar itself, we have more than 200 of these patients coming every day to see 8 of our vitreoretinal surgeons, most of them with these problems, and they seem to be going downhill. And whatever said and done, we tell them, keep your diabetes under control, keep your diabetes under control. We tend to blame the patient. We say, look, you are lazy, you're not following our instructions, you're not doing enough of exercises, or it's your fault. We always blame the patient. But I feel the problem is elsewhere. Another issue is that we all know that obese people are definitely, we know that they are sick people. But not all, 100% of them need be sick. Yes, he's normal weight, he need not have medical problems, no metabolic disease, that is wrong. 40% of them can have. There is a phenomena, what's called TOFI, thin outside and fat inside. This is exactly what these thin people suffer from. Although they are not overweight, they have got fat in and around their viscera, which causes all the problems like hypertension, like diabetes, like heart diseases. We see a lot of thin people, having these issues. This is the problem, and this is why even thin people suffer from metabolic diseases. Well, as I told you, what causes type 2 diabetes? There's no doubt. It is increased carbohydrates. The more carbohydrates we eat, the sugar spikes, blood sugar spikes. As the blood sugar spikes, the insulin spikes. And when insulin is high and you're constantly feeding your body, almost every 2 hours, some amount of carbohydrates, the insulin remains very high, and invariably we develop what is called insulin resistance. That means even though the insulin has gone up 3 to 4 times, it is not able to push the sugars out of the bloodstream into the cells, because the cells have become resistant, cells have too much of it, and it's saying, no, we can't take it anymore. This is the problem. This is what is called, you develop insulin resistance. But actually what we do nowadays is just test only the blood sugars. Blood sugars, by the time the blood sugar really shoots up, at least 5 to 10 or sometimes even 15 years earlier, the insulin shoots up by 2 to 3 times. So if you really want to catch a person early in a pre-diabetic stage, we need to test their insulin and not their sugars, because sugars, insulin will go up 2 to 3 times and keep the sugars down. When you test the blood sugar, it's in the 80s and 90s, but actually the insulin would have gone up 3 times. Insulin is working thrice more to keep that sugar down. So if you can catch that insulin is very, very high, that means the person is about to develop diabetes or he's a pre-diabetic, and we could take action then and there itself. And that is at least for 5 to 10 years before the person turns up. So now there is some amount of controversy. Some say sugar is the culprit. Some say, no, sugar, not sugar, it is fat the culprit. So there's been a war for quite some time between low carb and low fat diets. But let me tell you, friends, the facts now. Well, you all know how the insulin responds to different macros. When you eat a sugar or carbohydrate, maximum insulin response the body has to any carbs. Whereas to protein, it's almost half that, and almost negligible amount when you eat fats. So if you want to really bring down your insulin levels or what is called insulin resistance, the only way to do is reduce your carbs and increase healthy fats. It is quite simple and straightforward. I don't think it's rocket science. I don't think you need a doctor to understand this. I don't know why still people resist it. Well, here you have what is the normal FDA recommendations. They recommend even today, your diet must be 50% carbohydrates, maybe 30% proteins and 20% fats. Whereas the high carb diets, they recommend 60% carbs, 30% proteins, and very low fats, 10% fats. That's what's called a vegan diet, which of course I initially followed that. But now coming to a low fat and a rather high fat and a low carb diet, you take your fat up to 65%, or rather you eat as low carbs as possible, 10 to 15% only. Of course, you need proteins. There's no compromise on that, 25 to 30%. And the remaining, whatever you require, eat till you're full. You need not go hungry. You fill it with healthy fats. This is the diet, I feel, that does wonders. Well, you may ask me how and why. I want to tell you that our body is a hybrid machine. It's like a hybrid car. You have heard about that, one that runs on, petrol or diesel, and also on electricity. It can switch from one to the other. So also, our body can either use carbohydrates, carbs, and sugars, or fats to burn. But unfortunately, what we have been doing all along, almost from our birth, is that we have been feeding so much of carbs that body is just only used to burning carbohydrates or in the form of glucose. And we were taught in medical schools that glucose is the energy that is preferred. It is the energy that is absolutely necessary for our brain. And it is the energy that every organ runs on. Nobody spoke about fat as really as energy. But now, just think about this truck that you're seeing. It is a diesel truck. It is having its own tank. The tank which carries about maybe 200 liters of diesel, and it is carrying a huge, maybe 100 times that in the tank above. But unfortunately, although it is carrying 100 times more diesel in the big tank, it is unable to use it because it's not, the plumbing is not there. And the small tank, that its own tank, every time it gets empty, it has to run to the station and refill it. But what if it could have plumbing done and use this fat or this diesel in the big tank as energy? It could run for days and weeks and months without having to go to the bunk, petrol bunk. So also our body can actually store glycogen, that is glucose, about 2000 calories, whereas fats minimum, it has about 200,000 calories of fat. But unfortunately, this fat is stored away and it is locked up. Who locks it up? It is the high insulin that locks the fat away. Insulin is a fat storing hormone. Insulin not only stores but also locks the fat away. So when you eat some fat and lots of carbohydrates, the fat automatically gets stored as fat. The carbohydrates, what you have eaten, gets turned into glucose. Whatever the body needs as energy is used up, and all the excess sugar or glucose is converted into fat and it is locked away. So no wonder when a person starts to become diabetic or a pre-diabetic, you'll see that he invariably gains weight, especially around the belly. And that is a first sign that you're likely to become a diabetic, because the insulin levels have gone up, so it has started storing more and more fat. But then there is a way to burn these fats. And the only way to burn the fat is to reduce insulin levels. And the only way to reduce insulin level is to reduce carbohydrates to the minimum. You just don't supply the body with carbs at all, maybe just about 10% of carbs you give it. So the body can't run on 10% of carbs, it needs more energy. Slowly and surely, body will develop all the enzymes and the cycles. It may take a couple of weeks to burn the fats. And once the body starts burning fats, then there is no limit there. You almost have, I told you, more than 100 times more fat storage in your body. It can use it all the time, whenever it's necessary. And when your diet is low in carbs and high in fat, you don't feel hungry. That's the best part. And body is burning fat all the time. And it uses, while burning fat, what is called ketones. And we all know today that ketones are a much better fuel. It's a cleaner fuel. It is an antioxidant. It has anti-inflammatory properties. And also, it increases a basic metabolic rate, wherein you burn more calories. And that's how you lose weight. Simply, your weight, although you feel full and you don't feel hungry, but you will be losing weight. And once the insulin level comes down, your blood sugar automatically comes down because you're not feeding any more carbs and your body is running on ketones. And I must say that I told you earlier that we were told that the brain only runs on glucose, but now it has been proven that 75% of the brain activities can go on with ketones, and every organ in the body can use ketones as fuel. And whatever little glucose that is necessary even for the brain, the liver manufactures. Liver can convert anything into glucose. It can convert fat into glucose. It can convert protein into glucose. Around 200 to 300 grams of glucose the liver can easily manufacture. So whatever little glucose is necessary for the body, it will be done by the liver itself. Well, this is the diet that I'm talking about. What we need to do is reduce carbohydrates, especially the sugars, to less than 10% of your total calories. And proteins are absolutely essential. So it may be 20 to 30% proteins. You cannot cut down on proteins because you need strong muscles and bones. So proteins are essential. It's a switch between carbohydrate and fat actually. Once you reduce your carbohydrates, you'll have to replace that with healthy fats, not any fat, then your body will soon start to burn uh, all the fats already stored, and you'll start losing weight and your sugars will come down. So the solution is what is called low carb, healthy fat diet, which if you start adopting, you will definitely see results. I'll tell you exactly how to follow that. And one other thing that you can do is what's called intermittent fasting. Fasting is an age-old thing that has been followed in our country and elsewhere, in our religion and in all religions. All religions advocate fasting. Actually, it is a very good thing for the whole body. It rejuvenates the body. There is so much of repair and other activities that go on. When you fast, these things can definitely do better. So what I do is that this intermittent fasting is that I give a big break between my dinner and my breakfast. That means I have an early dinner. Today I had my dinner before coming here at 6 o'clock, and next day by 8 I have my breakfast. That means I give 14-hour rest to this body. But you may wonder, oh my God, I'll feel hungry. I need to eat at night. That happens only if you keep eating carbohydrates. One problem with carbohydrates is that the more carbohydrates you eat, so more hungry you feel. Within 2 hours, the blood sugar, of course, goes up immediately. The insulin goes up. It then brings the blood sugar down. Then you feel hungry again. Then you need to eat all the time. And it is the opposite with fats. Once you eat fat is so satiating, and you feel full and you don't feel hungry. So you don't feel the need to eat. So I can easily go on for 14 hours. That's the easiest way. Of course, people do 1 day fast and 2 day fast. If you can, that'll be good. But intermittent fasting, that is 14-hour fast, shouldn't be a problem. It helps. It also helps to make the body, all the cells more insulin sensitive. They're all good benefits of fasting. Of course, we cannot neglect exercises. Exercises are absolutely important. But people may say, well, let me eat whatever I want as long as I exercise. I must tell you here that you can never outrun a bad diet. Well, now coming to the practical aspect. So what are the things you need to avoid? Sugar. Sugar is culprit number one. There is absolutely no doubt on that. And it is accepted universally. There is no question mark. Well, sugar is toxic. Sugar is slow poison. Sugar is addictive. I must tell you that sugar is more addictive than smoking, alcohol, or even drugs. That's why, although so many of us know that sugar is bad, we just can't leave it because we have all become addicted to sugar. And other things, what we think, okay, sugar is fine. I understand, diabetics, all doctors advise, avoid sugars. But what about rice, wheat, bread? These are all common staple foods, and how can we avoid? We must understand that rice, wheat, bread, they are primarily sugar in a hidden form. Complex sugars, they are called. They may not spike the blood sugar immediately as you eat, but with just a matter of another half an hour or so, they will be broken down into glucose and your blood sugars will go up. So if you are healthy, young and active, I don't say you should give it all up. You could have some amount of rice and wheat and bread. But if you are a pre-diabetic, if you are a diabetic, or if you do not want to be a diabetic, or if there is a family history of diabetes, you need to be very, very careful with sugar, wheat, and millet, and so many ragi. All these things, all of them spike sugars. This I'm telling you from a practical point of view, because I don't know how many of you all know that I wear what is called a continuous glucose monitor. And this, whatever I eat, immediately, maybe half an hour, 45 minutes, I can check my sugars. I can check it every 5 minutes if I want. And then I know what spikes my sugars and what don't. So these I have tested, and definitely they are not for people who want to reduce their diabetes or reverse it or get it under control. Next, everybody says fruits and vegetables are excellent. You should have them regularly. Yes, vegetables, yes. We should not. I don't think we should put fruits and vegetables in the same basket, but usually they all come together. Fruits and vegetables, very good. But I must tell you, friends, fruits, especially the fruits that are available today, are not the original fruit what actually nature intended, maybe 50 or 100 years back. I don't know if you can remember 50 years or 60 years back, an apple used to be almost 1/4 of its size, and it never used to taste as sweet as mango. Today, apple is huge, and it tastes sweeter and sweeter every year. And most of that's the fate of all fruits. They have been genetically modified. They have been, manipulated. So the sugars are extremely high. Although a whole fruit is much better than fruit juice. And I'll tell you why. Because when you make juice out of these fruits, you are removing all the good, the nutrients and the fibers, and drinking only sugar syrup. And the very fact, fructose, I didn't tell you so far, this sugar, even white sugar, consists of 50% glucose and 50% fructose, all white sugars. The sugars that's added to your ice cream and chocolates and other things are 50-50, all bakery products. So glucose is one thing that can be utilized by every cell in the body, whereas fructose can only be metabolized by the liver. So much of sugar, or when you take fruit juice, so much of fructose is there, and the liver is unable to handle this. It's completely toxic to the liver, so much so that today we have what is called non-alcoholic fatty liver diseases, which was unheard of when I was a student just 40 years back. Most of the time, if anybody came with some fatty liver or cirrhosis, we could always say, oh, he's a drunkard. You go and ask him, Yenapa, do you take alcohol? Do you drink? Yes, sir, I've been drinking for 20 years. Yes, we were very happy that we made the diagnosis. But today, that's not the story. We see this fatty liver in children. And today, I must tell you, the commonest cause for liver transplant in the US is a non-alcoholic fatty liver caused by sugars and the fructose. So that's why I say fruit juices and fructose is as bad, if not worse, than alcohol itself. Alcohol is also another nutrient that needs to be metabolized only by the liver, and that's why you get fatty liver when you have too much of alcohol. And that's the same fate when you take fruit juices or regular sugar. Your liver goes for a toss. That's why I say never drink your fruit. And even regular fruits, I can give you a few examples what you can eat, but the regular rich, that juicy and sweet ones, better to avoid. Definitely processed foods, I already told you why. There's a lot of hidden sugar there. They need to be avoided. Starchy vegetables, especially one that grows below the ground, like potato and sweet potatoes, although they may say they are good, definitely they spike your sugars. All the vegetables that are grown above the ground, you can have plenty of them. There's absolutely no problem. You can get all your nutrients from there. Another, I was telling you about good oils and bad oils. The seed oils are definitely a no-no because they are highly processed, under high temperatures, under high pressures, and a lot of chemicals have been added, and what they are called hydrogenated dalda, that's the one. They are called trans fats, and they're absolutely bad fats. And these are things that you need to avoid. Well, then what you can have? I told you non-starchy vegetables, and for non-vegetarians, you can have meat, fish, eggs. Absolutely no problem. But healthy fats you have for vegetarians, you have butter and you have ghee. And coconut is one thing that all of us love. It is so tasty. You can have it in the form of your chutney or curry, and even oil is very healthy. Although people say that it has saturated fats, definitely not. There's no connection now, scientifically proven, that between your saturated fats and cholesterol and heart disease has been shown. Olive oil is another oil that can be regularly used. And if you want to snack, you can have all the nuts, but not dried fruits. And among fruits, you could have berries. They have the least amount of sugar. The blueberry, red berry, raspberries. These are the few fruits, seasonal fruits. And avocado is one thing I must tell you. We used to say earlier that an apple a day keeps the doctor away, but now it should be an avocado a day keeps the doctor away. Avocado is considered as a miracle fruit. And It is one of the best things that nature has provided us, and that's one fruit that we can have in plenty. But whatever said and then, all this you must get it as natural, as organic as possible. Especially meat, fish, and egg. You cannot get them from caged animals. You cannot get them from tied and tortured animals, because from them, whatever comes, whether it be milk or egg, they are all not very healthy. If you can get it all from pasture-raised animals, free running chicken or wild caught fish, nothing like it. Well, then you will say, how do I get my dosa, idli, and rice, and chapati and all that? I'm used to this. You say, give up everything. Well, there are ways to do it. They say, if you're out to beat a dog, you'll surely find a stick. Well, now you have got what is called cauliflower rice or broccoli rice, or what's called fake rice. See, after all, it's something that you need right there. And the easiest way, the other day, one patient told me, treat your vegetables like your rice. So you make this cauliflower, grate it into small things, and it looks like rice. You can nicely, stir fry it with, I told you can use all coconut oil, and you can all those, and make it very tasty. Put some coconut grating into it. It becomes very tasty, and use it like a rice. And over that, use whatever curry you want to, with all the vegetables you want, and then your stomach is full. And if you want to have puris and dosa, you should not use the other regular flours. You should use a very low carbohydrate flour. What now you get what's called coconut flour and almond flours, not easily available, but you can get them. And you see there are a number of recipes how you make dosas and how you make chapatis and puris from them. So you really don't miss your dosa and puri and chapati. You can make them from all these and eat them with good chutney, coconut chutney. Get your calories from healthy fats, so you don't feel hungry. You get your tasty food. Taste, either you get taste from sugars or you get taste from fats. I'm saying switch from sugars to fats, healthy fats, and you'll be eating healthy. So what happens when you change your diet? Of course, it will take a few weeks for you to get used to it. Initially, you'll get a little disturbed, but if you persist with it, first thing that happens, and what I noticed also, your appetite, your hunger, your craving decreases. This is the best part of a healthy fat diet. It is so satiating. You don't want to eat all the time, and then automatically, even if you do not want, your calories come down. Whatever said and done, because I say you eat healthy fat, that doesn't mean you eat a ton of it. You are not going to definitely lose weight then. You eat till you're full and eat when hungry, but don't feel deprived. So this diet itself causes your appetite to come down, so you do not feel hungry at all, and then automatically weight comes down. Once your weight comes down, your blood sugars come down. Once your blood sugar comes down, your insulin resistance comes down, then all the other associated metabolic problems like diabetes, fatty liver, cardiovascular problems, hypertension, strokes, autoimmune problems, your sinusitis, your migraine, your infertility, polycystic ovaries, erection deficiencies, all of this. You may say, my God, can one thing stop all these problems? Yes, I told you earlier, there is one root cause for everything. You remove it and all your so-called metabolic diseases will simply disappear. Well, the problem is we all want a quick fix. Nobody is willing to change behavior, change their lifestyle, do exercises. We want band-aids. And doctor also does not have so much time to sit with you and explain and tell you all this, and so that you get convinced. You also would like him to give you a pill, and he's also happy to give you a pill. That's why there is huge, rush for all pills, and nobody wants to change lifestyle. What I'm trying to tell you is, you need not follow the crowd. Do not be afraid to take the road less traveled. Whatever I said, you need not believe. I just want you to listen to me with an open mind. Try it out for yourself. If it works, good. If it doesn't work, throw it out of the window. That is the test. Well, so far I've given you some facts and figures. But as they say, facts and figures don't change behavior. Sometimes stories do. So I'll just take another minute or two, tell you exactly what happened to me. I was declared a diabetic when I was 40. And as I told you earlier, since my parents were diabetics, I thought it may be natural. And I kept taking tablets. And as I visited doctor every year, the number of tablets kept on increasing, so much so that ultimately I was on maximum medical therapy. And doctor even put me on insulin for a year or two. And of course, diabetes is not a disease that stays alone. They're all related. They're all cousins. Yeah, along came my bad cholesterols, my heart problems, my kidney issues, my creatinine went up, kidney stones, bladder problems, prostate problems. So much so that at the end of 25 years of diabetes, I was taking almost 12 tablets every day to control each one of them. Then I suddenly realized there's something wrong. I need to do something about this. Is just a downhill course. We are not, nobody is treating my disease. They are trying to manage it, but it's not even being managed. It is just a downhill course. And my weight kept creeping up. So way back, maybe around 2 years back, I started searching for better options. And initially I hit upon what's called a vegan diet. I tried that for a year and a half. And of course, it is also a disciplined diet, and it gave some good results. I gave up my sugars and the bad fats. So my weight did come down. My sugars also came down. My tablets came down, but it just plateaued off. And I suddenly realized that my triglycerides were going up. My liver enzymes were going up. Then I started digging deeper and seeing if there were any other options. Then I hit upon what's called this low carb, high fat diet. And believe it or not, within 2 to 3 weeks of switching over, my triglycerides came tumbling down. It was below 100. It was actually around 300 at one stage. And the good cholesterol, HDL, went up, which I've never seen above 35 or 36 in my life. Now, I think last time when I tested it 3 months back, it was around 46. I must test this week again and see where I stand. And my weight came down further, and the remaining tablets for my diabetes simply disappeared. I was shocked. And for me, it made so much sense, so that I got so excited. So I said, I should share it with each one of you, so that you could consider it and see if it works. And I hope it does. So what I'm trying to tell you is, first, shun sugars. There is no doubt about that. Restrict your carbohydrates, prioritize your proteins, and have healthy fats. If you can't follow all this, and everybody need not follow it, but those I told you who have this history, who have tendency to put on weight, and who are pre-diabetics, definitely you can consider it. But if you ever want to do just one thing after hearing this, I would say just give up sugar, or at least cut down your sugar by half, and you would be doing a great service to yourself. I keep telling my wife that please do not love anybody through the stomach. You're actually doing great disservice to that person. We are always wanting to feed somebody, force feed somebody, especially our children. And it's very unfortunate. Children, we actually introduce them to all these large amounts of sugars in the form of ice creams and candies and bakery products. And once they get hooked onto it, whether they put on weight or not, whether you're worried about their weight, you cannot get them out of it. And I feel that is very unfortunate. Now we have seen diabetics having type 2, teens having type 2 diabetes. That's very unfortunate. And one thing I must tell you, the proof of the pudding, they say, is in eating it. Recently, during this pandemic, what happened? Those who got this corona, who are the ones who got admitted? Who are the ones who got into this ICU? Who are the ones who got onto the ventilator? And who are the ones who passed away, unfortunately? The bottom line is, one and only person who really got bad was the person with very low immunity. And the cause of low immunity, of course, they may call it by different names. They say you have comorbidities, and all of them point to diabetes and its related metabolic problems. Diabetes reduces your immunity, and that's why you check any of these people who got serious. It's just not diabetes. They say heart diseases, they say age, they say overweight. With age, all these problems are there. That's why the age factor comes in. And all these problems are related, including the black fungus. If you really dig deep, the black fungus, as we all know, is because our immunity is so low. And today they talk about vaccination. Vaccination is not going to save you. They hope that by vaccinating you, your body will develop better immunity against the virus. So ultimately, it's immunity, immunity, and immunity. And I must tell you, sugar reduces your immunity. And even in a normal person, if you give them a heavy dose of sugar and test them, their immunity will go down by more than half in the next 6 hours. That's how dangerous sugar is. Thank you.